All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TradeMutt's 120 Grit podcast. We're very lucky today to have Mutt Identity, founder and CEO of Wundar, my mate, Rupert Ballinger. Welcome, Ru.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate. So we've known each other, a bit of a backstory, for a fairly long time. I've probably known you since probably 2000, I think.
Yeah, maybe late 90s.
Moved up to Mutt.
Yeah, Mutt Christmas tree, 1996 maybe.
Geez, I'll take that. So, Ru, tell us a bit more about your background. So you grew up outside Mutt. Just explain to listeners where Mutt is.
Can you explain to me where Mutt is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mutt is in the middle of Queensland, basically. So 1,400 kilometres northwest of Brisbane, in the far outback Queensland. About 2 hours north of Longreach. A lot of you would have heard of Longreach. Mutt is a town of about, I'm not sure the current population, it's probably hovering between 50 and 60 people.
Eased off a fair bit.
It's backed off since the GFC, but So I grew up on a sheep and cattle farm just north of Mutt, about 30 kilometres, called Stockholm. I was born in Brizzy and moved out there straight away. So I spent my whole life out there with my two sisters, and obviously grew up not far from where you were at Bowen Downs, so just down the road.
Yeah, well, it was a great little community, the Mutt community. So tell us about what it was like growing up on a sheep cattle station outside Mutt.
Yeah, so obviously, like everyone, as a kid, you don't know any better. So that was my life, I grew up helping mum and dad with sheep and cattle work, and doing school of the air at home. So I did all my primary school out there on distance education, which you did, on the VHF radio. It was awesome. It was unreal. Now I look back, I think it was incredible. I was riding horses and chasing, kangaroos and sheep and cruising around with dad and swimming in the creek and the dam, and it was like the world's biggest playground.
100%.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, unreal. I didn't get to see my mates very often, but I had my sisters and all that, so we had a good time.
Enough to keep you entertained.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun helping out and riding around on motorbikes and
what's School of the Air like?
Yeah, it was like I said, I didn't know any different. We'd get up in the morning, we'd have half an hour on the radio every day, so you'd be speaking to your teacher in Longreach, and we'd just get on there and speak to them, do a few sums and few subtractions, and
make sure you're on track.
Yeah, just keep the axe sharpened, and then after that we'd do some bookwork, and I probably tried to do as least as possible and get out as early as I could. It was pretty convenient. If we were shearing or doing cattle work, we'd pull up for a week or a couple of weeks and go and help out, and that was great fun. So really interesting sort of dynamic. When I tell people about it now, it just blows their mind.
Yeah.
I was never in a classroom. I didn't get into my first classroom until I was 13.
Yeah.
So it was a really different way to do it, but I loved it. It was, but it's amazing how we were using the old VHF radio, which is what planes and ships use. And now my nieces and nephews, they do it all on Skype and online. So
definitely changed.
The game's changed, that's for sure,
mate. That's I think I even forgot looking back how much rural kids have to mature. Some of the responsibilities we get at a young age. Do you think that put you in good stead? For later life. Do you look back fondly learning stuff at a younger age?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely gives you a lot of independence. Even just doing school yourself, you were basically teaching yourself by grade 6 onwards, and just having responsibilities on the farm, and doing jobs and looking after animals and feeding pets and doing stock work, and shutting gates and working the yards and speaking to employees and contractors, and you were everyone was chipping in, so it was great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you were finishing up year 7, and you dealt a tragic loss of your father. Can you run us sort of through how that all unfolded?
Yeah, so obviously I'm the only boy. I've got 2 older sisters, so myself and my old man were really great mates. From a young age, we spent a lot of time together, and he was a pilot. He had his own Cessna 182, and he used to do contract buffalo seeding and 1080 batting for wild dogs. So he was always flying around, and I was always jumping in with him, and we'd fly off and do something, and he was awesome. And unfortunately, sort of midway through the year 2000, in about July, he sort of broke down. We were out one afternoon delving a board drain actually, and he was in the tractor, and I was just driving behind him, and it was just on dark, and we pulled up, and he got off, and something happened. The tractor stalled, or he got bogged or something, and he just got off and switched the tractor off, and it was really quiet, and he just started crying. Started bawling, just broke down, and I was 12 at the time, and I sort of just went up to him, and he hugged me, and he just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, mate. I'm really sorry." And I had no idea what was going on. Sort of my life was starting to sort of cave in. He was my hero and father figure, and he was crying, and I didn't know what was happening. And then, unfortunately after that he got a bit worse, and he went to hospital for a while. He went away to Rockhampton and was in hospital for about 3 months, and he was just suffering from severe depression and mental illness. So I went and stayed with my uncle and aunt, and did school with them for about 2 months or 3 months while mum and dad were away, and it was a pretty sort of really scary time for me. I didn't know what was going on. I was praying every night for his life. I was just hoping he'd get better and come back, and it was pretty daunting and confronting. And so anyway, mum and him eventually came back a couple of weeks, probably a week and a half before Christmas, and he'd lost a lot of weight. He'd lost 30, 40 kilos. And he was a shell of a man, and I'd talk to him and sit down, and he'd be in bed most all day, and I didn't really know what to talk to him about. We used to talk a lot about rugby and the Wallabies and what was going on, and working up in the Kimberley, which he did, and flying and all that. And he wasn't half the man he was before. And then anyway, we had Christmas together. It was a pretty good Christmas, but it was quite awkward and sort of somber. And we had Christmas dinner all together, myself, my mum, and my 2 sisters and dad. We all went to bed, and then the next morning, on Boxing Day morning, for some reason, mum decided we'd go and get some sheep in, do some sheep work. So we went out and mustered a paddock, myself and my sister and mum, and my other sister Winnie stayed at home, and we were out there, and it was sort of mid-morning, 9:30, 10 o'clock, smoko time, and Winnie called up on the radio and got mum, and I distinctly remember being out. I know exactly where it is in which paddock at home, and she said to mum, "Oh, mum, I think something's happened to dad. You got to come home." And so mum just straight away got on her motorbike and flew home, and I was pretty terrified. And I went over and saw my other sister, and my motorbike had broken down, so I had to get a lift home with her, and we rode home, and it was a pretty scary feeling riding home. And then we rolled into the back gate, and I just distinctly remember mum coming out the back door and crying, and just said to us straight away, she said, "He's dead. He's died." And that was when our lives and my life just totally caved in and flipped on its head. And so then, we went in and saw him and said goodbye, and the ambulance came in and picked him up. And I distinctly remember standing out the front gate and watching the ambulance drive off and into the dust. And that was, the last goodbye. And so, that was the biggest thing that had ever happened in my life, and probably still is to this day. So, Yeah, full on.
Mate, you got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Hey, I mean that's a huge story. So you, in the lead up to that period of time, you mentioned it started on the track day. It was, your old man broke down. Is that you'd ever seen him cry before?
Never seen him cry. I think Mum had, but I was 12 at the time. He'd had a bout of sort of depression just before I was born in about 88. I'd never seen him cry, no. I'd never seen him that vulnerable. He was always, the whole time I knew him, he was big and strong and confident. Never seen him cry.
So that's I guess was a real breaking point. That moment for him was quite significant and quite a decline in mental health. I guess followed that.
Absolutely, yeah. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it was sad. Like obviously we're going to talk about what I'm up to now a bit later on, but if only there was more support for him. Yeah, he didn't know what to do. He'd grown up. He was born in 1950. He'd grown up in that era. He was a strong, tough, burly bushman who ran a property and flew a plane, and that's what you did back then. You worked hard, and you mustered cattle, and you did the work, and you
got on with it.
Got on with it.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about it or dwell about anything. You just sucked it up. And that's a shame. That's the problem. So
So do you think was he wanting to seek out help? Was he talking to your mother about it, or was he
little bits? Not really. He'd seen a few specialists, but sort of seen them, got over it, and then sort of went on a bit of a probably high for a while, and just wasn't regularly checking in with my mum or his mates. Yeah, I think he just masked a lot of it. He just covered a lot up and wasn't able to be vulnerable enough to talk about it on a regular basis. Yeah.
Pretty natural, I think, reaction when you don't know what's going on, or you don't want to seek help. It's just easy to mask it up, I think, because you just don't know, what else to do.
Absolutely.
It can have tragic consequences, can't it? That's what you're talking about.
Totally, and obviously, he ended up having a heart attack. So, it was his physical body that caved in, but I have no doubt it was fully connected to his computer, his brain.
Yeah.
So his mind wasn't in a great state, and then his heart caved in the end. Yeah. But if you put enough stress on your body, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So you're the youngest of three.
Yep.
Dad's just tragically lost his life. Where does that leave you as a young bloke?
Yeah. As in how I felt, or what was next?
The whole lot.
Yeah. So obviously, I had no idea what the hell was going on. It was very scary for me. We had his funeral about 2 or 3 weeks later in early January, and we'd had a lot of rain, so it sort of got delayed for a bit. But we all flew into Muttaburra. We couldn't get through the creek, so we had 3 Cessnas come in and pick us all up. Good family friends came in and flew us in, and I just remember lying on his bed before I went in, and going in, and we just went down to the church in Muttaburra, and there was a hell of a lot of people there. There was, I think, 300 or 400 people there in Muttaburra, and we walked into the church, and he's had the proceedings, and then I watched my uncles and his mates carry him out, and I walked behind him with my mum, my 2 sisters, and it was the scariest and worst day of my life. And then after we buried him, I just went and hid in the car and cried. I didn't want to go and see anyone. So during the wake, I just stayed in the car.
Mate, as a 12-year-old kid, I couldn't comprehend that happening to me now, let alone then. So that's just such a heavy thing at that age. And then as we know, you went from there. A couple of weeks later, you went off to a new boarding school down here in Brisbane.
Yeah, absolutely. So literally, 3 weeks after the funeral, I packed up my bag and headed down to Brizzy and went to Churchie to boarding school. So that was a bit daunting. I was very close to my mother and a bit of a mama's boy, so that was scary and sad at the same time. But it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah, it was awesome. I absolutely loved it, and it was tough the first couple of days, but having that fresh start and getting a new bunch of mates that were always around you was exactly what I needed.
Yeah,
and it was just a good bit of a temporary distraction and sort of something to get on with.
Yeah. So was it something? Obviously, you've just met your new schoolmates, year 8, in the boarding house. I still remember my first day in there. You don't know anyone. You're a fresh face. So did you build rapport up with people and then start talking about what you'd been through, or was it something that you didn't speak about? Or
yeah, no, I I didn't speak about it at all, not to anyone for 5 years. Really, I probably touched on it a few times with a few people, but hardly spoke about it. Literally got there and put my head down and didn't talk about it for 5 years, bottled it up, which wasn't great. But at the same time, I had a great time. It was I got on with it, but there was definitely, I wasn't being that vulnerable. Yeah.
Would you change anything?
Oh, definitely. If I was to look back now, I should have, in hindsight, I should have been sharing it with my mates, talking about it.
Yeah.
Sitting down and just having a yarn over dinner or just sitting in the dorms or when you're down playing footy or something.
It's hard, but isn't it? Because as a kid there, you're probably trying to process it yourself. You know what I mean? You probably haven't completely come to terms with it yourself. So how do you talk to anyone else about it when you probably haven't, been able to,
Absolutely. I had no idea where to start.
Yeah.
No starting point. Like, what do I do? How do I broach this with someone? Where's it going to lead us to? What's going to come next? It's a bit awkward. Almost felt a little bit embarrassed about it.
No doubt everyone else around you knew what happened, knew what you'd been through, and no one else is talking about it. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
the elephant in the room, I guess, isn't it?
All the boys, all my mates after school, we kept saying, we knew all about it. We just didn't know how to bring it up with you, and poor buggers, they didn't, and neither did I. And I was still trying to get my head around being in a classroom. So there was a lot of stuff sort of going on.
Used to the two-way.
A lot of distractions.
Yeah, well, Mum, for some reason, put me down. You know how you have to choose a language when you go to school? She put me down to learn Japanese, which I thought was pretty bizarre because I was still getting my head around English. But anyway, that was...
Arigato, Mum.
Yeah.
Mate, so you immense, like you surrounded yourself with sport, essentially, at Churchie, from what I know. Big rugby player.
Yeah, loved it, mate. Absolutely. Like, I'd been playing footy at home for 12 years and watching the Wallabies and Reds and as soon as I got to Churchie, I ripped in and absolutely loved it. And started pretty ordinary and just worked hard and put my head down and the dream was for me was always to pull that blue and grey jersey on and play for the first in grade 12. As you look up to all those guys ahead of you, and luckily I was able to achieve that and get out there and win a premiership, and it was unreal.
So run us through that year because you had some pretty big names in that side.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's a great. Looking back now, it was a phenomenal year and team. Obviously, we had David Pocock, current Wallaby, and Quade as well, Quade Cooper. In our side, so Dave was playing inside centre, Quade was playing 5'8", and they were unreal, amazing blokes, amazing players, and the rest of the team was awesome as well. Our captain James Lambus, he was phenomenal. We had a great side. I think we had 7 players in the Queensland side, and then 2 Australian schoolboys, and then 1 Australia A player.
And you did your knee early.
That was grade 11.
Grade 11.
Did my knee.
Yeah.
But all good for grade 12.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, awesome.
And we finished off, played Nudgee at Nudgee for the last game in the. It turned out to be a grand final, and got up 42-3. So it was awesome.
Proud moment.
Just had to get that in there.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Did you contribute to that win?
Oh.
What position did you play?
I played hooker actually.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I threw a few line-outs and packed a few scrums, but didn't do too much. Yeah,
it's unreal. So after school, what happened then?
Yeah, so finished up at school and then went home for a year. Went back and gave mum a hand for a year, working at home, bit of jackarooing around Longreach, Muddaborough.
So all the while, ever since what happened when you were a kid, your mother was back home running the show completely.
Yeah, yep. So mum grabbed hold of the reins after Dad died, and she ran the farm for the next 19 years.
Incredible.
18 years.
What a legend.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, she's an amazing woman, and she just really stood up and took the opportunity. Yeah, she did a great job, and she loved it too. She was a country woman at heart, and she didn't want to be anywhere else. Yeah, so she's phenomenal.
It's amazing, mate. Amazing. So you spent some time at home. I suppose that would have been good because it probably was the first time you're back living with your mother.
Yep,
for
absolutely.
5 years.
Absolutely, it was nice. It was nice to get back and just take it all in and reconnect with home and reconnect with the bush and my community back there. And it was great. Play a bit of rugby out there, and I loved it.
That's awesome, mate. Awesome. So you was that your plan to go and stay home? Was that your plan?
No, not at all. I just thought I'd have a year there, and then I wanted to get back to Brizzy and play a bit of rugby and whatnot. So I came down to Brizzy and just got a job labouring for a builder when I was 19 and started playing rugby down at East Rugby, playing Colts. And that was awesome. Unfortunately, I got injured in the bloody first game, so I was sort of out for most of the season. But yeah, I had a great time in Brizzy. Met a lot of great people and strengthened a lot of friendships.
Yeah.
So early 20s, can be a hard time for blokes, I think, particularly. A lot of self-reflection and finding out who you are and, making sense of life and, all that sort of jazz. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was, I did a few different things in my early 20s, I went up north and whatnot, but it was a tricky time to navigate. I never felt like I wanted to pigeonhole myself or label what I was going to do. It seemed so, I still can't fathom it, but you come out of school and you're either going to university and doing something you're not really sure about, or you're doing a trade, which is fine. If you love that, that's great. But there's a big majority, I think, of people that really have no idea what they want to do. You don't know such and such from clay. So, it's I never wanted to just say, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't have any idea. So I was sort of just pushing around, having a bit of a look. But it sort of it was a confusing time as well, because my emotions from my father's death started to come up. A bit of baggage that I'd been holding on to and bottling up started to come through, and that sort of gave me. I was a bit agitated, bouncing around a bit.
How did you manage it? So that you knew it was coming to the surface. It was something that was coming back. And you're probably 22, so it's 10 years sort of later.
Yep.
And you still haven't dealt with that grief, I suppose, to a degree.
Yeah, it was pretty apparent. Yeah, it sort of started coming up, and I was just unsettled and sort of frustrated. I guess I just started reaching out, getting a bit of help. Did a couple of courses, and worked out a few things and got a few tools in the toolbox. And that sort of helped and gave me a bit of direction. So
you took that step yourself, you just to sort of reach out and.
Yeah, I remember looking at a few farmers from Queensland, outback Queensland, and they were very successful cattle farmers, and they seemed to just have it all together for me. And I kept looking at them and thinking, what are these blokes doing? They seem like they've got it pretty good, well sorted, nice family, seem to be really happy, and they're running good businesses. So I sort of looked into what they'd been up to, and they recommended a few things and a few courses and whatnot. So I had a bit of a go at that, and so I guess I had to I had to reach out and start looking, and that didn't come naturally, but yeah.
So you're sort of, I guess, seeking out role models. To a degree.
Definitely looking at mentors and looking at who I could look up to as a role model, and what I wanted to do, and what was possible, and then finding that ideal person to reach out to. Like I sort of got onto that concept fairly early. If I wanted to get somewhere, I needed to speak to someone who's already there, but I was still working out what it was that I wanted to create or design. So it was sort of a bit of a juggling act, but I started getting the gist of reaching out to mentors.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose did you really have one going through school, or was it sort of something you found later?
Yeah, probably subconsciously through school. Like my rugby coaches, housemasters, headmasters were all mentors. Now I look back at it.
Yeah.
Definitely rugby coaches in a big way. But I probably didn't realise that. I don't think I even knew what the word mentoring meant when I was at school.
So it was just you had that lost feeling, I suppose, coming out of school.
Yeah, just early 20s, just I was just confused with what I wanted to do. Everyone would ask you like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you up to? Are you going to uni or are you doing a trade?" And I'd just be like, "No, I'm labouring for a builder," or "Oh no, I've just got a job. I'm contract mustering just south of Longreach." "Oh, okay." And then it just it was hard to explain.
Yeah.
And I was a bit of a nomad, a bit of a gypsy. But I knew that I just didn't want to. I dug my toes in, and I didn't want to just take something
Conform.
up. I didn't want to conform because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people, like you say, everyone's asking, "What are you doing now?" Like there's an expectation that you should have some awesome job, or that you're already saving for a house or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone else does that, right?
exactly,
And that's just the norm, and that's what we think. Oh, well, they're doing it, so we better do it too.
exactly,
And
yeah.
that's the first thing that people want to know. When they chat to you, what are you doing? And like there's some preconceived idea of, I guess, what success should look like straight out of school.
Totally. It's conditioned into our beliefs in society. Like, are you a Sparky or are you a builder or are you doing law or are you doing business management at UQ or what are you doing? And I couldn't really answer that.
So was it something you felt, I don't know, shamed about, or was it something that you sort of was getting on your nerve a bit? Like,
Oh, definitely. Like, I was, it was sort of, for the first few years, it was all right. It was pretty fun, and I was sort of just exploring. And but after that, I guess, mid-20s, it's hard when your mates are right into something and they're sort of wondering what you're up to. But I got used to it after a while. I was like, oh well, that doesn't matter.
that's them, this is me.
That's them. This is me. I'll work it out at some stage. But then, later on, I sort of realised, at some point you definitely got to find your purpose or something that you can get behind. So I don't encourage it, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
It sounds like you're pretty comfortable in your skin, though. Like it sounds like you had a reasonable amount of self-confidence to stand on your own 2 feet and not really worry about what everyone else was doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think I became fairly confident in what I wanted to do, and I was happy just in my own skin. But there was definitely times where I was probably putting on a brave face. But it was a journey, and eventually I found something. I found a mission to get behind. So
run us through that, mate. Run us through what you're doing.
I suppose now's the time to talk about that. So it was sort of I went to university down in Victoria. I went and studied agribusiness at Marcus Oldham, and while I was there, I probably ironically made the decision I didn't want to be in agriculture, but
Ditto.
Yeah, exactly. But But it was a amazing course because it was all about business, and I understood how business works, and obviously still working that out. But so I decided to move to Sydney about 4.5 years ago, and I was done with the bush on the land. I'd cut the ties there, and I'd wanted to live in the city and build my life there. So I went to Sydney. I got a job selling advertising for a business magazine down there, the CEO magazine, which was awesome. I really loved it. And I actually had a job with them. I used to do the off-the-record chats with the CEOs and executives before they went to the journalists. So I'd do like a 30-minute interview with them. So I'd have them on the phone, these CEOs of huge superannuation companies and construction companies and et cetera, and New Zealand rugby and whatnot. And I got to question them for half an hour and get some concepts and ideas and insights, and that was phenomenal. I really loved that, and that really switched a light bulb on for me and opened my mind up. And I then went on with them and started selling sponsorship for their awards, and I was meeting some really great people and really interesting people, and I started looking at a lot of different industries, and I just decided that I really wanted to start my own business, and I wanted to build an online business. I think I listened to Jeff Bezos's audio book about how he started Amazon, and I was just like, that's phenomenal. I need to start an online business. This is really cool. You know, I'm a millennial. I grew up with computers and iPhones and social media, and I was like, this is a great industry. It's exciting. I want to get into it, and I want to learn about it. So I started probably about 4 years ago, started really learning about the online space and tech space. And probably 18 months, 2 years ago, I came up with the idea to start a online platform for mentors, coaches and consultants. And then that slowly sort of evolved into just a mentoring platform. And I could see the real value in providing a mentor and having easy access to one. And I believe in the concept. I think it's an awesome concept. No one's ever done anything on their own. No one ever will. You always need help. I've quoted Isaac Newton before. He says, you know, if I've seen further than others, it's because I'm on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And I set out to start building that, and I started playing around with a few prototypes. So I got built offshore and tested them a bit, and then I started building something pretty solid, and then I started speaking to schools and universities. And that was the real sort of door opener and eye opener for me. I realised that, you know, coming out of school, you need a mentor and you need some help. And I started looking at my own life. So I started solving my own problems. I was like, well, you know, I've come out of school and, you know, it would be good to have a bit more guidance or just someone to talk to about what they're up to in the workforce and what they're doing out there. And another thing to add, which is probably a important part, is when I left school, I'd achieved. I love school because I just loved the system. I just got in there, I followed the rules, and I got to got there. You know, there wasn't much more. It's probably a bit of a curated environment, and it's probably a bit of a controlled space. But I won at that game. You know, like I got an OP5. I played for the first 15. I won a premiership. I was house captain, prefect, school vice captain, and head boarder. So, and I won the Spirit of Churchill Award. So coming out of school, there wasn't any more ribbons I could win, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm saying this not to boast. This is part of the story, right?
Yeah.
And so you come out of school and you sort of feel a little bit, you know, untouchable. You know, I was a bit like, wow, well, I can do anything. You know, I've
ticked every box at school.
Ticked all the boxes. Doesn't matter. It'll just happen naturally.
Yep.
You know, you just turn up and there it is. But I soon realised that, you know, no, this isn't school. This is life, and you've got to sort of almost start again and build your way up. And yeah, I sort of lost touch with that, and I forgot about the fact that I started in grade 8 with just the bare minimum, and I worked up towards something, and I had a vision and I had a goal, and that was to play for the first and achieve this and rah. So it all happened. So I had to relearn that and recreate that, but that was part of my whole idea about a mentoring platform is, you know, if I'd have come out of school and been able to speak to a few different people that could have had a formal mentoring relationship with myself, it would have probably shortened the learning process or the learning curve in my early to mid 20s. You know?
I find it really cool that you have come through all of this and now you're solving your own problem.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you've seen a problem. It's been a problem for you. You wanted a mentor. So what have I got to do? I've got to create a platform where people have easier access to mentors.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
It's a lot easier to bury your head in sand.
Absolutely. Oh, totally. And I did that for a little bit, and that doesn't work. just so you know. And yeah, I think I've spoken to a lot of mates and other people that have gone to, gone to school down here, boarding school and whatnot, and other guys that have probably achieved a lot at high school, and they do come out a little bit, you know, lost and whatnot. You know, it's sort of it's something you've got to sort of work through. You know, when you achieve something, then you got to start again in another world.
Mate, I think we have conversations all too often, or see young blokes struggling out of school. You know, that late teens, early 20s, like it's a real,
find your feet.
Trying to find your identity in the world, trying to find your place in the world where you perceive success or you think there's so much expectation on you to do this, that, or the other. You know, sometimes it's hard to figure out who you are.
Yep.
And what your place is in it all.
Absolutely.
And it's it can be a real massive problem for a lot of young blokes.
Totally. The whole identity crisis and
Big time.
working out who you are and what you want to do and where you want to be. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm just trying to put myself, you know, in your shoes. You know, when we first conceptualised like TradeMutt and what we were going to be doing, and, you know, you go around, you tell a few mates and, you know, the head cocks back, you're like, what? You must be joking. Like, we did you feel like vulnerability when you were telling people what you were up to now?
Oh yeah. Building this mentoring platform, Wundar, it was absolutely, when I first started telling people like 18 months ago, it was really awkward and I felt really uncomfortable. You know, like you got an online mentoring platform? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
Another app, is it?
Yeah, another bloke
cool.
starting an app. Yeah, cool, good one. You know, good luck. I think there's Batuta articles written about it. You know, so
they're pretty bang on the money.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. Those, yeah. Well, I don't know who those guys have been speaking to, but anyway. But it was definitely talking, and especially obviously coming from the bush or the land. Most of my mates are from the bush, they're all absolute champions, but it's such a different contrast, agriculture and starting a tech company in Sydney.
Well, anything out of the norm, I think that's what, like it was the same thing for us. It was like two chippies starting a bloody workwear company that was trying to change the face of mental health in Australia and the looks, and like it's funny. It's like you'd think more people would be, get in and have a crack. But I think people have an idea of, this bloke might fail here and all this shit, will this work, and everyone's a bit on eggshells. But I think like we don't celebrate like entrepreneurship enough in other people when people have ideas and support. I think, would you say
totally.
that?
100%. Like all the books and all the quotes are right. Like, don't be scared of failure, keep trying, keep failing, fail yourself to success, persistence, perseverance, press on. It's all true. I believe. Yeah. And, I think that creating that culture where people are comfortable in having a go at something and branching out and trying something new and failing a few times is definitely something that needs to be nurtured. And you can see in pockets around the world where that's evident. Obviously Silicon Valley has a high risk profile. They're just getting in there and having a go, and same in Israel and Tel Aviv, and that's where all the great things are happening.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why we can't have that more in Australia, in anywhere, whether it's Muttaburra or Sydney.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot to be said for the reasons why you're getting into what you're getting into, and what the driving factors behind it. I think anyone sort of just getting into what they think is a great idea because of immediate financial gain is probably going to fall over pretty quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Yeah. I think there's so many ways you could look at it, and I'm no coach and I don't have the silver bullet, but
you believe in it.
I honestly believe that, it is important. I've had a go at a few little things beforehand, and my heart wasn't in it. Yeah. I think it is real when you hear, you need to find your purpose or your mission and something that you can really stand behind passionately, and that you've got your heart behind, because that's what's going to pull you through. And there's nothing I've been. This is the first thing, building this mentoring app. Wundar is the first thing I've ever been so obsessed with. And I love getting out of bed every morning and building it.
That's awesome.
Just creating it.
So tell us about Wundar, the app, exactly, its functionality, how it works, what you hope to achieve out of it.
Yeah. So basically, Wundar is a mentoring platform that connects you with a mentor within your alumni. So at the moment, we're just focusing on schools. So enabling graduates that have just left school to tap into their alumni network, their old boys or old girls, and be able to quickly find a mentor in any industry, in any location. So I can go in, log into my school network, create a profile very similar to LinkedIn, and then I can, in the search bar up the top, I can search for any industry or location. So I can look for every bloke that went to my school, Churchy, who works in finance in London or architecture in New York, and that'll populate with every guy who's in that category, and then I can reach out to them and either send them a message or book them in for a call.
That's awesome.
That's bloody fantastic.
What would you say to anyone out there listening that has, gone through grief like yourself, that, might be struggling to, know what to do next or who to reach out to, or what would you say?
Yeah, good question. And like I said before, I'm no oracle or anything, so it's my perspective. But I believe what's helped me a hell of a lot, and I've genuinely enjoyed it anyway. But I think communication's really, really important. I think whatever it is, we need, as humans, we need to talk to other humans, and it doesn't matter what that is. It can be about footy or anything. Ultimately, you want to get to the real stuff, and you want to start talking about your feelings and your emotions and your thoughts. But just to start with, I really encourage regular and consistent communication. So calling people, calling your mates, calling your family, catching up with them. You can't run on your own. You can't be a lone eagle or a lone wolf and cruise around. You just get stuck in your own thoughts in your head. I think it's really vital to be talking, on the blower, talking on WhatsApp, Messenger, ring people, ring mates.
We've never been more connected, but a lot of people are, probably feeling quite isolated as well,
Totally. If you're not, don't have a good core group of friends or support, you can, definitely feel isolated, or alone for sure. So, it's, obviously, like I said, getting into the raw stuff is the best, because that's where you can start dealing with stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
So just like going back to school a bit more, like do you wish you could have reached out and spoken to someone professionally back then, or would you have rather done it earlier in your when you left school, or was it something that you wish you had done? Or
I guess you hindsight's an interesting thing, isn't it? You can always improve in the past, for sure. It would have been great to be speaking to more people at school, getting some more professional help, talking about it more, sharing it with my mates, getting it off my chest, all that stuff. It's never too early to deal with stuff and talk to people and get the right coaching and so that's why I'm really driven now and committed to providing that support network and mentorings, because I think you can't do it too early.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I think that's where you can really instill some great fundamental tools to help you manage and deal with stuff later on in life. School, that's what school's for, right? It's the classroom where you gain life skills. And I think obviously, it's a big topic, but our education system, there's a lot of room for improvement. I think we're due for a bit of disruption in education and providing more classes and learnings on life skills.
Yeah.
Big time. You spend so much time in that classroom, but you hardly touch life skills.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the syllabus hasn't changed for like hundreds of years, and I think it's time.
I was talking to my girlfriend about she's doing her placement at the moment at a primary school, and NAPLAN, it's NAPLAN time at the moment, and they do it in year 3, and she's working with a grade 2 class, and they've got a whole lot of students in there whose parents are driving them to do the NAPLAN a year in advance just to prepare them for next year, and it's like they really bloody drive it into them, but there's not all that much on the whole emotional intelligence kind of thing, is there?
No, not at all. What grade are those kids in?
Grade 2.
Grade 2.
Yeah. Put them a year ahead to try and get that NAPLAN nailed.
Yeah.
But what is it in the grand scheme of things?
Exactly right.
What is
the
it?
whole thing.
Yeah.
I've never applied for a job and someone's asked me what a NAPLAN score was.
What are you even getting tested on at that age?
Yeah. No, I honestly think it's really, personally, I think the education system, it's the biggest elephant in the room, and I just can't believe we haven't transformed it in 2019. And that's I'm trying to create some change now. So let's hope we can crank it up.
Absolutely, mate.
So you've just launched Wundar.
Yep. Yep, launched a few weeks ago.
That's awesome. That must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I've been building it for a long time.
Yep.
Put a lot of work into it, invested a lot of money into it.
And now you're out there as well. It is out there. It's a real thing.
It is
Yeah.
a real thing. Exactly. It's come to life.
Yeah.
We've got a big school in Sydney that have signed up first cab off the rank, which is great. So we're getting going with them and hoping to get a few more on really soon.
It's awesome, mate.
Awesome, mate.
It's
And how have you found the entrepreneurial
Big word.
entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreal. I love it. I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah.
It provides a great healthy amount of challenge and you learn so much. You know, I've learned more in the last 18 months than I have in my whole life. And it's got every component to it. You know, business, life skills, communication, EQ, IQ. Tenacity, bit of just raw grit.
Yeah,
and
sink or swim.
Yep,
Yeah.
sink or swim, mateship. Yeah, it's exciting, and it's all just beginning in Australia. I think it's a really exciting time to be getting going, and it's exciting to be. I'm based in Sydney, and I've basically been building it out of my bedroom in Paddington. Now I live in North Bondi. Some offices in North Bondi, and I couldn't.
Long way from Muttaburra.
Long way from Muttaburra, absolutely.
So what would you say, Roo, to someone out there that might be feeling a bit lost, not knowing their place, what where they fit in, what to be doing? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, well, obviously, jump on Wundar and find a mentor. I think, like I said before, I think there's nothing wrong with exploring and having a bit of a look around and having a go at a few different little things.
And don't rush it.
Don't rush it, no. I think some of the best stuff I've done is just gone and done a bit of labouring or worked here and there. I've done a bit of piecework and tried a few different industries. That's awesome, and I wouldn't feel bad about that or embarrassed, whether you call it a gap year or whatever. I think if you're just working in different jobs and meeting some different people, and you're not rushing into making some big life or career decisions, then that's fine. And you shouldn't feel pressured by society or other people that you should be doing something mainstream.
And don't be afraid to do what you want to do.
You just can't beat life experience, can you? Like,
no, exactly.
No matter what it is that you're doing, experience. It's all just,
And sometimes it just takes a while to work out what you want to do. You know, it just takes time.
I still don't know what I want to do.
Well, you better know what you want to do tomorrow. You're coming here for work. No, it's great. And Roo, really appreciate you coming in today. It was a really great chat. I'm sure our listeners would have got a lot out of it. And really appreciate it.
Congratulations with the app as well, mate. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I think it's really cool to see someone, who's so passionate about something just doing what their passion is. It's awesome.
Thanks, fellas. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm really excited, and congratulations to you boys for what you're doing. I think it's unreal, and you're definitely an inspiration for me. So looking forward to the journey ahead.
Thanks, mate.
Is there anywhere people can go they want to check out more about Wundar?
Probably just the website, or just have a look at us on social media, Facebook and Instagram.
What's that website?
That's www.wundar.com.au.
WANDER, is it?
WUNDAR, Wundar. Yep.
Awesome.
So
fantastic.
jump on, have a look, and
Awesome, mate.
Thanks,
so
Roo.
much for coming in.
Really
no
appreciate
worries.
it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.